Hello, freaks, geeks, degenerates, and basement dwellers. Welcome to the Warzone. I'm Scruffy, and this is Scruffy Tales. And we are getting more and more news regarding the possibility of Ukraine potentially receiving Gripen fighter jets in 2026. So there's been official meetings between Sweden and Ukraine lately, in just the recent days here. They were discussing how to make sure that Ukraine had access to long-range artillery shells and stuff like that, but also primarily how Ukraine would be able to acquire the Swedish fighter jet Gripen. We know that Saab, the manufacturer of Gripen, they've said for a couple of days now that a deal would more than likely be struck within a couple of months, and now we're hearing basically the same from official sources from Sweden and Ukraine. And the Ukrainians have said that in a few months there will be good news for Sweden and Ukraine and bad news for Russians. And from Sweden, we have learned that there's been made significant progress regarding training, financing, and production capabilities. And they're saying that the Ukrainians have already a financing plan and an agreement could be reached within a few months, which lines up with what Saab has said, that they expect the deal to be made within a couple of months here in 2026. But it's interesting that it's been highlighted that training has made significant progress, as well as financing and production capability. So, I mean, the Ukrainians, they've already expressed their wishes of flying Gripen in 2026. So we'll see if that is the end result here after the summer is over, I would suspect. Now, we all know that Gripen has a couple of well-known perks. It only requires a ground crew of 6. They basically show up with 2 trucks, and then they can rearm and refuel a Gripen in 10 to 20 minutes on the ground, on any stretch of road, essentially. And, I mean, this helps out with the tactical flexibility of the aircraft. You don't need 20 ground crew like you do with a F-16, for instance. And it's designed, Gripen that is, it's designed to be maintained by conscripts with, with the not without all the experience you might expect from the crew taking care of an F-16. So what might you do with the Gripen? You could take off from a road over here and fly out into the Black Sea, engage targets in the Black Sea, head back, land over here, meet up with a different ground crew altogether, rearm and refuel 10 to 20 minutes, then fly down over here, drop bombs on Russian positions within Kherson, fly back, for instance, land over here, meet up with another ground crew, and 10 to 20 minutes later you're flying over towards Donetsk, and you're engaging a Russian bomber coming in to drop glide bombs on the front line. And then you might head back over here, meet up with another ground crew, and I mean, it's a rinse and repeat, depending on the mission parameters. So that is, the tactical flexibility of the Gripen aircraft, in theory, one should add, since it hasn't really operated in an active war yet. But this is what it's designed to do, what it's built to do. Quickly switching from bomb runs to strike runs to close air support to air-to-air combat, and just meeting up with different ground crews at different locations on random stretches of road. You don't need a proper air base to maintain these things, and you only need, like I said, a ground crew of 6, of which like 5 are conscripts. That's the thought process behind the Gripen and how to keep it operational. And this is, of course, you know, an interesting concept for the Ukrainians. The Gripen was basically built and designed to fight in this type of war that they have found themselves in. But what is more important than this is the Gripen's ability to launch Meteor missiles. And the Meteor missile is a highly advanced missile with a ramjet. That means it will continue at maximum velocity until it hits the target. Ordinary missiles burn the fuel in a few short seconds and then they glide towards the target. The ramjet continuously burns fuel until it actually strikes target. That means it goes faster, it reaches farther or further rather, and is more dangerous. And the no escape zone is much larger compared to another missile. So if the Meteor gets within 60 kilometers of the target, that target can't escape. And what are the official numbers? I don't know. It's supposedly have a range of 200 kilometers. But I mean, if the Gripen goes extremely high, then you can, it's basically basic physics. The higher up you are, the further the thing flies. It's just like throwing a ball, right? From a tall building, then the ball will go further than if you're down on the ground. But 200 plus kilometers, right? And Russian glide bombs has a range of 100 kilometers, maybe 120. So that is kind of important. So if the Russian glide bombs, let's see if we move over here, so 150, right, so damn it, messing this up. So that is essentially, what the hell is going on here? This mouse. So that is essentially basically the range of the Russian glide bombs, right? So Russian fighter jet has to fly in here, drop the bomb, and then turn away, and then the bomb glides over to the target on the front line. So if you have a 200 kilometer range on the Meteor, that is significant. That means you can engage the Russian aircraft over here before it has reached the point where it needs to launch its bomb. And the Gripen is over here somewhere and is still relatively safe. It doesn't have to move in over occupied territory to engage the Russian aircraft. And if you combine it with the 2 Saab AWACS that Ukraine is currently operating with a radar range of 400 kilometers, I mean, then you can spot the Russians well within Russia as they're taking off from their bases, and you can scramble Gripens to intercept them before they have even come close to the Ukrainian border. And all of this combined will force the Russians to rethink how they use their bombers and how they deploy their glide bombs. And the glide bombs is one of the major advantages that the Russians have at the moment. And if you can reduce the effectiveness of the Russian bombers and the effectiveness and the impact of their glide bombs, I mean, that is a massive win for the Ukrainians. Even if they won't remove all of the glide bombs, just the threat of the Gripen and the Meteors will force the Russians to rethink how they operate with their aircraft and those bombers. And so it's a big deal for Ukraine to get Gripens, but it's an even bigger deal if they can get Gripen with the Meteor missile. Right, so let's do, this is going to be awesome. Okay, so this is ground, and let's pretend that this here is a Gripen, and up here you have Saab AWACS, and over here you have a Russian bomber. It's gonna move in and it wants to drop its bomb in order to blow up a target on the front line. What the Gripen can do is, well, first of all, the AWACS up here, it's gonna spot that fighter jet long before it enters the Ukrainian airspace, and then you can have, like we see here, a Gripen moving in low so that it avoids Russian radar, it avoids anti-air defenses and what have you. And then the Gripen can fly up and launch its Meteor and let the Meteor fly, and the Gripen can then just go back down quickly and just avoid getting engaged altogether. Just go fly low, move up, launch the missile, and turn around. And then the AWACS can deliver intel to the missile and guide the missile towards the target. So the missile is not locked on, it's just flying based on information given to it by the AWACS. And then when it's close enough to the Russian fighter jet, then it can activate its own radar, lock on to the target, and move in for the kill when it's within that no escape zone. So the Russian, he has no idea that he's being targeted by a missile. Missiles and targeting radar use different radar wavelengths than, you know, the standard ordinary radar systems. So he knows a radar somewhere is looking at him, but he doesn't know that a missile is moving in. And by the time his own systems realize that a missile is locking onto him with those different radar wavelengths, it's too late, because the Meteor has already moved in close enough to be within the no escape zone. And at that point, the Russian can get away and the missile will hit and destroy the target. I just realized what shape this is. Awesome. So that is what the Gripen combined with the Saab AWACS combined with the Meteor can provide with the Ukrainians, ignoring the awesomeness of the drawings here and, you know, just going by the theory of what we've been talking about. And that's a pretty big thing. The Gripen doesn't have to, you know, expose itself to enemy fire. It's just a delivery system. It can still rely on this tactical flexibility, moving in, dropping a bomb or a missile, getting out of the way, land, rearm, refuel, and rinse and repeat. And you can rely on the Saab AWACS to just send information to the missile as it's flying through flying through the air until it is close enough to the target that the Saab AWACS is seeing from afar, and then it activates and goes in for the kill. Jesus. Anyway, it is what it is. Well, that's it. I hope you found it interesting, and I hope I'll see you in the next one. As always, go på marsch, Ukraine, and give them hell.
Från forntiden, släpp lös rede. Låt valkyriorna rida igen. Låt jakten börja, låt himlarna brinna. Låt molnen blöda i vår ilska och hat. Låt griparna flyga, flyger den. Hör valkyriorna sjunga, hör en helgarna ryta. Med klon täckta av blod, klor som sliter i kött, näbbar som skriker av vrede. Hör dem ropa över de brinnande himlarna. Hör valkyriorna sjunga över blödande moln. Se Gripen jaga, hör Gripen skrika. Se Gripen jaga. Från Valhall till Midgård, sprid ut era vingar. Se valkyriorna rida igen. Låt jakten börja, låt himlarna brinna. Låt molnen blöda, giv oss ilska och hat. Se griparna flyga, se dem fria. Hör valkyriorna sjunga, hör einherjarna ryta. Med klå och näbb låt dessa krigsdjur jaga. Låt dessa majestätiska varelser frossa. Vingar täckta av blod, klor som sliter i kött, näbbar som skriker av vrede.